Thank you, and welcome to another MISA session. So we are week 11 in the semester for our spring semester, and week 10 in MISA. And so last week we had our accelerated info session where we talked about our accelerated program where students can get their undergraduate MIGRES and their graduate MSITM in as little as 5 years. And actually we have one of our alums that works at SBA that actually did that program. So it's kind of cool that we have that going on. So tonight, as you kind of remember, for those that have kind of been with us, we try to alternate MISA with general meetings, and then we have company information sessions. So tonight we have our next company information session. So really excellent company for those of you that were with MISA for a little bit. We actually were able to do a company tour in February last year, right before COVID broke out. So I feel like we were very privileged to be able to get in right before, you know, things got a little bit crazy. So really excellent company right here, headquarters in Boca. You know, you've probably driven past it when you were trying to get to Costco and just didn't look over there too far enough. So really excellent. I don't want to steal all the thunder for them and talk about the company and how great it is and the great opportunities they have. So I'll let the speakers go ahead and do it. So we actually have about 5 speakers tonight to speak, and they're all going to be from a variety of different areas within SBA. So it's going to give you guys some good opportunities to hear a little bit of insight on these departments, and then hopefully be able to ask some good questions. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to the team. So can we give a nice warm round of applause for the team from SBA Communications and for Dana for kicking off the first half.
Thank you. It was a nice intro. So, you know, hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I'm just going to give a quick overview of, you know, what SBA does as a company. And then I will hand it off to the team in IT. So SBA Communications, we are a wireless infrastructure company. What that means for us historically has been we own and operate cell phone towers. So we build cell phone towers, acquire them, you know, through acquisitions, and then we maintain them and we lease space on the towers to wireless providers. So examples of our customers were all business to business. So T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, those are probably our 3 top, you know, really our customers in the US. We are throughout 14 different countries throughout North, Central, and South America, and in South Africa. We are, again, like Professor Sweet said, we are headquartered here in Boca Raton. We are publicly traded. So we've been in business a bit over 30 years at this point. We're publicly traded about 20, I believe. So, you know, the business is essentially, I would say, even though we're in telecom really and wireless, you know, it's a lot of commercial real estate. You know, it's the same idea as, you know, a store maybe renting space in a shopping plaza. We rent space on a cell tower and land around the tower. And so we work with our customers, the carriers, to expand their networks so that they get coverage. So all of us can use our phones and get all our streaming and do what we like to do with our phones. Most recently, we've gone into a few other lines of business. We had a strategy team start a few years ago at the company, and we've moved into data centers. So now we own and operate a couple of data centers, and we're expanding in that area. And really how to use our cell sites to offer different services to our customers. So again, data centers is one. We're doing energy as a service. Connected venues, which is like private networks. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on at SBA right now. So, I mean, that's a, you know, brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end if you have any more questions about the company, but I'm going to hand it over to Debbie Smith, who will introduce the team.
Thank you, Dana. Hi, everybody. We're super excited to be a part of this program again once this year. As Jonathan said, last year, we had a great on-site trip. We did a tour of the data center, And but I'm super excited to see all the faces here on the Zoom meeting, so it's a good outcome. I am Debbie Smith. I'm the Senior Director of the IT Project Management Office, and I have the pleasure of introducing 3 experts of our IT department. They're going to share with you some of the assignments that we handle, the work that we do, the systems that we build, security overview, and some really cool stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off first to Jim Fallman, who is over our application development department.
Okay, am I muted? Okay, how do I
Yeah, we
share?
can hear you.
No,
Yeah.
loud and clear.
All
Yes.
right, now how do I share my screen here?
So you can just click on the bottom middle. It has a little green button that says
Oh, there
share
it is, share screen.
And then,
That's pretty,
no, you're good.
complex there, huh?
Every system, has their own.
We only
space
have
of-
like 4 or 5 different virtual platforms now. So
We're
Yeah,
not good
right.
at technology here.
All right. You seeing that?
Looks great.
Good, man.
Okay. My name is Jim Fallman. I've been the manager of application development and now the director of application development for 20 years now at SBA. So I've seen a lot of changes in the company and the way we do development, the way we do business here at SBA. And I'm going to go over how our development team department is composed, how we get our work, and the general kind of work we do. So first group actually in application development is our core application development team. That consists of our manager of application development, who is actually hands-on. He does a lot of development of his own, runs his own projects and products. He, in addition to managing the rest of the developers, he also is a mentor, the last stop support for any most hard to solve problems for the rest of them. And he, for example, he calls himself the chief propeller head at SBA. So it's pretty accurate, actually. And you'll notice for the SBA people here that he actually has some hair. What they do is this whole group, they design and develop custom applications, of which SBA has a lot. Primarily use web forms, ASP.NET Core, MVC, Blazor, a smattering of other technologies. Basically, we will, if a developer wants to master a new technology, we'll certainly encourage it as long as they don't impact their timelines. They're free to, learn something else. It'll only benefit us all in the long run. They also integrate with a lot of internal and third-party applications, mostly with web services that they'll write. Sometimes if you use a third-party system you're trying to integrate, it's got to be either emails or dump off files via FTP that the other system will ingest. Or if it's internal, we sometimes just link to databases directly, which is the most efficient, but the least easy to get away from as time goes on if you want to modify attached systems. They do a lot of modification and enhancements of existing applications due to new business initiatives, new markets, security requirements, or just innovation from within the company. And they each have an ever-increasing load of support and maintenance. You've heard of you broke it, you buy it. At SBA, our development department has a policy of you built it, you buy it. Once you build something, you are the one that is forced to support and maintain that until you could get a newer developer walking through the door that doesn't know any better that you can hand it off to. The other part of our development team is our database systems team. You can see that their icon looks just like the application developers, but the manager has a lot less hair for the SBA people there. He is also a hands-on manager, much like the development manager. He stands, in addition to managing, he also mentors and provides support to the other database developers, report writers, and DBAs. They generally, for the most part, they are supporting the development effort of the application developers. Sometimes the developers will write their own SQL code, But if it's something complex or especially financial in nature, they'll usually work with the database analysts to put that together. They work in T-SQL, SSIS, SQL agent jobs. They also, the report writers use SSRS, Power BI. Sometimes they'll just dump data to Excel for an end user request if it's an ad hoc. Database tuning, performance management, backups. We might get a call that there might be a block table that's causing 3 systems to crawl to a standstill. They'll have to go figure out which process to kill. They do code migration. While application developers don't have access to production, they get the network team to move their code. Database developers will move each other's code, just not their own, as long as they have, and all their access production is logged and tracked and signed off on weekly, so we could accommodate that. And the last big part of the job is mass updates. You'll often get some end user or group that goes and does some data manipulation or data cleanup in Excel rather in the systems we painstakingly wrote for them, and give us back a messy spreadsheet to clean up and load back into the system somehow. And then the last group that we have as part of our development team is our contractors. Contractors, you can see from the icon, they talk a lot to generate billable hours, but they also wear ties so that it's all legitimate. We use them for specialized knowledge that we don't have expertise in, such as like maybe it's mobile programming or some complex security or something obscure like that. Sometimes for product specific engagements, whether we're buying a new system, like our mapping system or some cloud-based system like FSE or Avanti, we might not have access to the source code or just the expertise to configure it, and we will need some custom work to do at the initial engagement or later on as we have changes in our business, and we'll have to engage with them again. We use contractors for overflowing when we have just more work than we have people to do it. So we'll bring on more general contracts for that, or I probably get in trouble for saying this, but also for scope control. If we know a particular project's likely to be difficult, we'll go get a third-party contractor to work on that, because we know that they will be a lot more careful with scope creep and when they're paying for every individual hour. So we'll push that off to a third party sometimes. So with that, the origin of our work will come from sometimes compliance. That could be internal legal compliance. Maybe, for example, we have a bird built a nest on top of our towers, so we have to track that until we could use our tower again. Or it could be internal audit that wants us to track more, create more audit logs or track something more closely. So we'll have to modify a system to accommodate that. It could be business expansion, new lines of business, or we acquire a new company that does business a little bit different and has some contractual requirements that our current systems don't handle. So we'll have to modify systems for that reason. It could be new markets where we would have new languages, new currencies, or new government regulations that we have to deal with and modify a system accordingly. It could be an app or a component that becomes obsolete. And sometimes when, like for example, a component becomes deprecated in some of the, or a new version comes out, some of their functions become deprecated. So we have to rewrite around that before we could release an upgrade. And then the other thing is what I call bug fixes and end user complaints, because end user issues. Sometimes we have legitimate bugs, but sometimes it's just that the system does not work the way somebody wishes it worked. So they will report that as a bug, and I will recategorize that. And then the most common thing is our business process improvement. Someone will, in another department, will come with a better way to do things that will make them more efficient and unfortunately create more work for us. So we will build an app to accommodate that as well. Our work will hopefully come through the top 2 items here, our PMO or a ticketing system. The PMO is our project management office that Debbie heads up. When that is the way people are supposed to submit projects, it goes through there. It gets vetted, prioritized. The executives will talk and prioritize among themselves before it gets down to us. or our ticketing system, if it's a problem or a small request, they will put it in our ticketing system. That will get routed to the correct developer, and then everything's tracked according to all our requirements for Sarbanes-Oxley. Sometimes, unfortunately, we still get direct requests. Our developers have been here for a long time, so they'll get a call directly from our end users. They'll get an email. Someone will find out who they are, and then we have a more challenging way to track our work. It could be external pressures, such as like the obsolescence of a component, like I mentioned before, or internal efficiency, like the business process improvements, which usually means some VP wants something done. So that development process. First off, we start with our initiation. That could be anything from a phone call for a small request, or it could be a kickoff meeting that's more formal for a large project, and everything's documented. Before we do anything, because again, I keep referring to requirements, SOX requirements. We, as a public company, we have to follow certain rules, and one of them is business owner approval. That should be written, documented, because we're going to have to show that we are doing our work based on a legitimate request and not some programmer going rogue for some reason. Requirements could be anything from a phone call. Sometimes it could be a phone call. But if it's a large project, we could be it could be very formal with project manager, multiple BAs, and a large document that's signed off by everyone at the end. And then finally, we'll get to our real development. We use what I'd call like a loose agile process here. We'll write some of the functionality, get it out to the end to unit testing to have them take a look at it, see if it's if it works. Then we'll expand upon that bit by bit, so we don't just try to dump the whole thing in one shot. But our development and our QA department will work closely for a while, go through a few iterations before we get to UAT, user acceptance testing. That is another SOX requirement that has to be, even for the smallest request, any changes that are going to end up going to production must be documented, signed off, and proven to be legitimate. And that is tracked very carefully. We go through 3 times a year or so, we go through with internal audit and eventually with external audit. And finally, we release our product, and then we go to the stage of endless changes and complaints before we move on to the next project. And any developer will have multiple projects going on at one time, in addition to any number of support issues depending on how many systems they're supporting. I don't know, I think I might be out of time. I have a couple slides of a couple apps, but I think I've gone over my 10 minutes at this point.
It's okay, Jim. Nobody saw any of your slides anyway. It's cool.
Okay, that's fine. I'll hand this over then to.
You weren't changing the slides, man. It was good though.
I wasn't changing.
Maybe you could change Felix's slides, Jim.
I
Maybe
didn't have
maybe
the
that
heart
way.
to tell him.
I didn't change them. I didn't change them on my screen.
I couldn't do it either.
All right, this is a good example, you guys, of,
See that?
IT, not, look, we
don't have all the
people
answers.
too, right?
Yeah, we don't have all the answers. Certainly not.
They weren't changed. Are they changed now? Does it say Felix?
Yeah,
Community?
it says it
Yeah,
now.
but we
Yeah.
missed your whole slides.
See,
Okay.
but we're
Wow.
seeing it as the presenter view. So I
Yeah.
think if you go ahead and change out of that,
Well,
kind of
thank you
present-
for
'cause-
sharing with me, my SBA colleagues.
We didn't have the heart to stop you, man. You were on a roll.
yeah, I messaged you in the chat too. So, but it's all right.
All right. Well.
Raymond says he was using his imagination.
Oh well, I'm glad you were. You missed my little pictures of Mike and Kevin with the bald guy and the hairy guy. Come on.
Missed it.
All right.
We might have time at the end, Jim. We can
Yeah,
always
that's
refresh
true.
the group if they're not sleeping by now.
Oh,
So.
all
damn.
right, well, I bring you the best, students. Only
sorry,
the best
guys.
for you. Go ahead, Felix.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm on mine, but let me just tell me if it switches.
Oh,
Is it
I won't
switching? Yeah,
tell
it is. Now, do you have the presentation view, or do you have?
Yeah, we have
you guys-
it's
It's the full thing, right? The
yeah,
full screen.
it looks good. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Wow. All right. So, hey, Jim, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that. That was that's a tough one to follow. So, but I appreciate that.
You appreciate my one slide.
Yeah, man, it was good. All right. So, well, since Jim and I have very similar duties, I'm just gonna focus on one part of our ERP system. And our ERP system, I'm sorry about the animations. I didn't realize they were in there until like 11th hour, and I couldn't get them out. So the animations aren't on everything. They're just on a couple of slides. But anyhow, our ERP system is distributed across multiple platforms. Like for instance, we use Highland for our enterprise content management. We use Oracle EPM for our financial reporting. We use UiPath for our robotic process automation. We use Microsoft Dynamics GP as our financial system. And this is essentially a process of our data and our systems and our people. These platforms kind of come together in a complex dance of data, if you will. And we have systems here that are all connected. Everything talks to itself. You've got, it looks like a spaghetti bowl, but it really is, and it truly is controlled chaos. You have individual contributors in different departments that enter data into their individual systems, or maybe they share a system with somebody else. But all of that data, the whole point of all that data is for reporting at the end of the day. It's for decision making. It's for everything that goes with it. You know, you have compliance, you have all the other things. But at the end of the day, it's really for the executives to make decisions. So all of that data is aggregated into our data warehouse. And that data warehouse is what we use for analysis, for any kind of projections, any kind of predictive analytics. So we use that for this, and we call that Site 360. Being a cell phone tower company, everything for us revolves around a site, and a site could be anything from it's components, right? You've got a lot of components. You've got the towers, you've got the structures on that tower, you've got the land, you've got the leases, you've got all the attributes of that is what we consider a site. And so to have a 360-degree view of that site, we built a data warehouse. So again, Site 360. Now that data warehouse has an architecture. That architecture is a hybrid. We're an on-prem for part of it and on the Azure cloud for the rest of it. We use a lot of Azure components, and we use a lot of other tools that allow us to analyze the data. So we have a red line, if you can see, where we have kind of a dotted line almost in the middle where it says data zones and stores. So everything to the left of that is what we have on premises. Everything to the right is our cloud solutions. So we have all this transactional data that sits in our transactional systems. That's fed through different ETLs into what we call data zones 1 and 2. 1 is replicated data raw exactly as it is. 2 is curated or cleaned up, if you will. And then we then ship that to Azure. And at that point, that's where it's aggregated. So all of our aggregations, all of our analysis is done against that. And there we have data science tools, we have machine learning tools, we have a lot of that Microsoft Azure Cloud gives us that then we tap into that allow us to truly analyze that data. So it's some highlights of our data warehouse. It's, like I said, it's on Microsoft Azure. We use Power BI. Microsoft Azure and Power BI are very strong tools for the analysis of data. It has very strong visualization tools, has very strong artificial intelligence tools, et cetera. So it's kind of, it's a one-stop shop. That's how we found it. We use data from, this is just some of the systems. That's a typo because we do a lot more systems, but our property management database, our Microsoft CRM system, GP, which is our financial system, DocuSign, CLM, which is our contract lifecycle management system. But we also take data from FAA, FCC, and local government services. What I mean by local government services is, for instance, the planning and zoning departments of different governments. So we take data from that and we extract that to see who's building towers around our towers. So there's a lot of different things that we do with our data that feeds in, again, into that data warehouse, and it's all connected very nicely. And like it says here, multiple groups are using that data warehouse. We distribute it. It's we're bringing more and more groups on, but it's something that's growing. And the more we throw data at it, the more groups come on. And we have many millions of rows of data in there that we analyze. And again, in various states of aggregation, you may have it as raw. Raw, you're always going to have a lot more data, and then curate is going to be a little bit less, and aggregate is going to be a whole lot less, hopefully, depending on how you did it. So some of the reports that we see is, like, for instance, here it's kind of hard to see it, but in the upper left-hand corner, I don't know if my mouse will work. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's a slider that allows us to pretty accurately move things along, and that gives us some predictive analytics. And that's all through data science and other tools that are in the data warehouse. There's machine learning tools that we use, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all kinds of stuff in there that allows us to do that. And then that's all based off of statistical data. So if the more it sees things happen, the more it could possibly happen again. And then that lends itself to those predictions. And again, some more information here, more dashboards, some of the ones that we use. And in this one, we have some DocuSign data. So this allows us to see data, envelopes or contracts that are in the process. So this allows us to pretty accurately gauge where deals are across the global platform. So we can see very clearly how things are going for either individual people that are doing these deals, or the carriers themselves, or by state, by country. Allows us to flip and manipulate that data how we need to. And then with geocoding, we're able to see hotspots. I know I picked up a lot here for leasing, but we picked up hotspots of deals that are in the works. So we see that, hey, there's a lot of potential deals up in Montana, Missouri, these areas. We see stuff that's in the pipeline, that these are places that they're really making an effort to try to grow these markets. And again, just like with where we have, I said we're an international company, we can also split it up by where we're working, the different countries. So we can get a global view of our data, or we could slice it by those individual countries, or what we call markets. Each market allows us to because again, how that data is structured, it's a big spaghetti bowl of data, but it all is connected. So because it's all connected, we can do this very, very easily. And that's what I got. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Felix. So Ryan, I think I don't know if I had given you privileges, or if someone else wants to share so he can see the slides, like if you had something you wanted to go through in your section.
Yeah, it looks like it says I have a disabled participant screen, so I don't believe you gave me the privileges on that.
So it could be, I mean, I gave you co-host, but it could be because you're on your phone, maybe it doesn't allow the
Felix, do you want
to
pull up my slide deck, or Jim, one of you guys?
Oh, you have a second one. I see you got two going. Oh, there we go. Let me give it to your other one here.
All right.
Make co-host. I'm sorry. I saw
That's
two
okay.
Ryans.
No, I see it. Okay, no problem.
There we go.
Yeah,
You're set now.
All right, no
Want
problem.
me running your slides, Ryan? I'll do it for you.
No, I got it, bro. I got it,
No,
man.
man. No, you got that. You did awesome, man.
You guys see this? All right, let's see if we can work this. Sorry for you guys see the background that I have here, and hopefully you're not too dizzy from looking at the tower behind me here. But appreciate you guys staying on. Thank you, Jim and Felix. Great presentations. I can definitely attest to the hard work that those guys put into doing their jobs and helping SBA. Anyway, I'm Ryan Hay, Director IT Security and Compliance. We're a team of 4. I got a senior security engineer. He's more of my threat hunting type of guy. I got a junior analyst that's more vulnerability scanning, and I'll get into what everybody does. And then I have a compliance analyst that kind of handles a lot of the audit, governance, risk, and compliance stuff. Okay, so as you guys can imagine, have you seen in the news? I mean, you can't start any security presentation without talking about a lot of the breaches. You know, the Facebooks of the world, the Mimecast and Microsoft. So what you see here on the left is just so far this year, there's a ton more companies. These are the bigger names. And then what you see here to the right, hopefully my cursor you can see, but what you see to the right is really the cause of it. And a lot of the things that we see in security, unfortunately, are a result of human error, you know, and people not doing their diligence or their screening up front. So what you see here is, you know, unsecured databases, which is what impacted Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And then you see the impacts, 214 million accounts. These are accounts that are exposed with personally identifiable information, credit card information, health records, you name it, it's out there. And they do it just to sell the information, and it's that easy because a lot of that information is valuable information. But I'm not going to go through each one of these, but you can see, you know, certificates, you know, that were compromised, invalid on, you know, so that takes away the legitimacy of a site. Ransomware, as you guys are all aware of, third parties obtaining data, different security flaws, patching. So, you know, my job and our group is really to work with the business and to work with the stakeholders to make sure that they're kind of doing their jobs and helping to keep us secure. This slide here, so again, my group is comprised of the security side and the compliance side. So what you see there on the left is the more security. So we do our own security testing. We have an environment, a Kali Linux environment where we perform our own penetration testing. We do our own vulnerability scanning using the same environment. We also use Qualys for our web application scanning, and I'll get into that in the later part of my presentation. We have diligently been putting in hardening initiatives and efforts to secure our systems, our endpoints, our servers with the industry guidance from the Center for Internet Security. So we've been rolling those out. We've got 10 benchmarks. We're on our fourth benchmark, but as you guys can imagine, it's a very time-consuming process where you have to tweak certain controls and settings so it doesn't break the business. So it's a balancing act for sure. We do have threat detection and intelligence software. So we detect the threats that are coming in, both from the inside and the outside. And we have the intelligence that's bolted on and wrapped around it that gives us that visibility to be able to communicate that out to the business. Data discovery and monitoring, we have a tool we use called Varonis. And that tool is going to be able to give us the ability to identify sensitive data, where it traverses in the environment, and then monitor that to be able to communicate it to the business. Some of the other areas in the security area are diligence around certificate management. Many times what we see is certificates, as I mentioned, that have poor ciphers, that have already expired, that have that are not complete. And so it's our job just from the compliance side to make sure that they're legitimate and that the websites that are involved with SBA are blessed through this certificate accountability. We also have privileged access management. And so obviously the people with the keys to the kingdom, we're wanting to monitor all that access. We do that through a secured password vault, which go ahead and authenticates those individuals into the systems of choice. But we're getting ready to pull the trigger on a new vendor to help out with that. And encryption, we do encryption at rest through our BitLocker encryption and in transit through our transport layer security encryption and some other means, secure file transfer protocols and some other. To the right, what you see is the compliance end. So we are SOX, as Jim alluded to in his presentation. So anything around the audit, anything around general controls, anything around cyber to an audit, the compliance piece of it is covered, which includes reviewing user access. We do that quarterly. And we report to the business with the evidence of that. So our external auditor will have that for their records. One of the big things that we do here in the environment is around social engineering. So in other words, we phish our users. We are creative. We've done different types of campaigns. The one that we're doing now It has to do with, or one of our templates is around credential harvesting. So we're testing our users' ability to see if they not only click a link, but if they go a step farther to where they enter their credentials and enter their bank account information, which we're already identifying a lot of those users through the tool. We use a tool called KnowBe4 for that. We've done phone phishing scams. We've also done USB baiting since I've been here, where we've caught some people from that regard. Risk assessment is the biggest area that we have here. We follow the NIST cybersecurity framework, and the hardest part, it's easy to assess the risk. It's easy to identify the risk. Where we really struggle, and where most environments really struggle, is managing the risk. And fortunately, we do have a GRC platform that now has helped us with that. So we no longer have spreadsheets because versioning always was a problem for us. And so now this platform is really helping us really get a grasp of the risks that we have and really remediating them, because that's the key, because these risks are everywhere. We do a little privacy work. We work with the business and the legal group to help see where we are from a privacy perspective. And the big area now from the compliance side is third-party management. We're blessed in the sense that we do have a full-time position now that can assist us with assessing our third parties. We have a third-party monitoring solution that helps manage the risk of these third parties. And so if they're breached or if there's any impacts to their security posture, we're going to know about it. We're going to be alerted to it. And then the rest of the stuff there is that you see is, we do policies and procedures and documentation and other customized training and awareness to the business and to the department. And annually we do an annual tabletop incident response exercise where we engage a third party to come in and provide that simulation. Sometimes it's gamified, other times it's really kind of reviewing and going over documentation, but we do that annually where everybody signs on to that. So the next group of slides, I'm just going to show you some of some of the tools that we use. It's not all of them, but the first one here is our vulnerability scanning. So this is the Cali. We used OpenVast, now Greenbone. So probably a lot of you that are familiar with that, but we're able to visually see graphically all of the vulnerabilities. We can see the vulnerabilities by their severity, as you can see there in the lower end there on the bottom. We can see how severe it is from a ranking perspective. And what that does is that just helps our teams prioritize our remediation efforts. And then what you see there at the right in the corner is the monthly Cali vulnerabilities. And this is something that's presented to our board from a high, moderate, and a low perspective. And this is obviously the board's wanting to see a downward trajectory for remediation. That's what we're diligently trying to do. But it's a challenge in our world now, because as I said, it's these vulnerabilities come from everywhere. So it's just really hard to keep up with them. What you see here is additional scanning. This is our Qualys web application scanning console. So you see a lot of graphics as kind of like what Felix showed in his, very metric-driven numbers, bar graphs. But again, this is all the concerns of our web applications and security around that. But we also use Qualys for our hardening efforts. So what you see here to the top right is compliance with what CIS recommends for the controls, where we are, how many controls we've applied. And so we get benchmarks again, and we report to our board. This tool here is our cyber threat detection and intelligence. We use a local company down here out of Miami called Cybraics, and Cybraics is great. Again, it's going to give us detection of insider and external threats. It gives us, it opens cases by case type, gives a lot of analytics by behavior, user behavior. We've identified quite a bit of information already by having this tool. We've identified things such as, spreadsheets that have passwords on them that are not protected, modification of files, third parties trying to exploit the perimeter, coverage of our, exploitation of our Hyperion systems. All of that kind of information would be detected in a threat detection and intelligence. this slide here has to do with our Verona software. So what, again, this is data discovery. So this is showing our files, our folders, everything that's out there, what's shared publicly, what's sensitive in nature, what percentage. So again, we want to show a downward trajectory to the board by saying, okay, well, you know, we had so and so amount of sensitive files and folders, and so 6 months later, we've dropped it in half. That's the kind of progress they want to see. Social engineering, these are results of our phishing campaigns. So we've gotten very aggressive with our phishing campaigns because we're trying to simulate what the third parties and what people are doing on the outside. And so they're very customized now, which is really kind of resulted in our fish rates really jumping drastically. We're actually running a campaign now as I speak, and the percentages are well into the double digits. But we typically distribute 4 different templates, again, quarterly, and we report. These are the results, how we report it to the board, so they get an understanding of the awareness of our users. We also get a report on the reporting percentage. So we want to make sure our users don't just delete the emails. We want to make sure that they report it as a phishing email, so we can, we can improve our program and customize, future trainings as a result of it. This is our GRC technology. I do apologize for the visuals for this. To the left, what you see here is the actual, this would simulate the spreadsheet. So this is all of the risks identified, the owners, the severity, where they came from. Now, what you see here has all been loaded into the tool. These are all of our assessments that we've done and the percentage of risks remediated, whether they're in progress, not started, or they're completed. But this has been a lifesaver for us, and because it's centralized, so it's helped us tremendously in managing these. I had mentioned the third-party monitoring, so we do use a tool called Bitsight. As you can see here, our environment scores very well compared to a lot of our competition. We are in the advanced category deemed by Bitsight. And this is something that my team addresses and looks at on a regular basis. And if there's any kind of impacts to our security posture, it's going to be reported into this tool. Now, the beauty of it is, if you look below here, what you see is the history of our environment. So the lowest we were at was a 720, and the highest right now is what we have now. It's just an 800. But we also get to see our competition. So you can see some of these other players, that are in the 300s and the 600s and things of that nature. So now there's a lot more science to it than just numbers. In the case of Cisco, they score low because they're a service provider and they host different companies who are really not concerned about, their data. So that unfortunately impacts Cisco, but this is a solution that we, again, aggressively use for the board. We do our own self-assessment of our program. So we've self-assessed it based on a 5-tiered approach here, and an overall maturity of a 3.7. Again, we do that against the NIST framework. And then what you see here to the right is the frequency of the things that we do from a security perspective, everything from annual penetration testing to annual policies and procedures. We do a threat attack surface mapping annually, to all the way to quarterly phishing, daily types of logs and monitoring. But this framework is prescriptive. So any of you guys, if you want to go to the framework, you want to see it, it's the NIST cybersecurity framework, and it's well adopted now across the industry to help clients improve their security posture. Now this is our program.
So Ryan, I'm just going to jump in because we're getting close to our time, and I want to leave some time for some Q&A for the group. So if it's all right, we can transition just for the sake of time.
You got it.
To the Q&A. So if you want, you can unshare your screen, and then I will go ahead and stop the recording, and then we can go ahead and jump into some of the Q&A, because I know, especially Ryan, everything you went through, that we're going to have some questions from the group.
Sure
so
thing.
I want to make sure we have some time for you. So I go ahead and stop the recording.